Hello and welcome back to Shh, the Girls Are Racing. My name is Miranda and today I wanted to do a bit of an explainer video, do just a short video and talk a little bit about where F1 Academy kind of fits on the feeder series pyramid or feeder series competition ladder. I wanted to make this video because I feel like I see a lot of misconception online about what F1 Academy actually is, what kind of cars they race, and where it actually fits into that single-seater competition ladder. And I personally think that is where a lot of its criticism and a lot of complaining about F1 Academy actually comes from, is people not understanding what it actually is. And so I just wanted to make a little video, just a little explainer, just kind of going through that, and hopefully it'll be like super short because this shouldn't actually be that long. It's honestly something that's a little bit more of a personal passion project of mine because I feel like with a bit of explaining, people won't be so quick to just criticize it without actually understanding what it is and what purpose it serves as a formula feeder series. So I've actually prepared a bit of a PowerPoint presentation. It's kind of funny. I've just got a couple slides put together with some statistics, some different facts I've pulled together personally that I've been researching to try and show where I think F1 Academy really sits and what it really is. I wanted to discuss this with as much fact and context that I could bring so that it kind of really gives a good picture of what I'm trying to explain, which is kind of what F1 Academy is. Not its purpose or what it does for women in motorsports, but just what it is. I also want to point out, as I point out in all these videos, I'm a fan, but I'm also a new fan. So you're probably thinking, why on earth should I explain this? I agree. But I also think there is some merit in me presenting it, someone who's just had to research and doesn't actually have maybe that true or proper insight as someone outside of the motorsports industry, because I feel like if I'm able to understand it as a fan through research, then I'm probably going to be able to present it to other new fans who have similar questions that I had when I was just getting into supporting F1 Academy. So generally, I'd say that this video is definitely targeted towards more newer fans or people who aren't as experienced with understanding all the different bits and bobs of F1 Academy, and hopefully this will be a really good explainer for that type of audience. And because of that perspective that I bring, if anyone in F1 Academy, anyone connected to the motorsports industry is saying something different to what I say here, probably listen to them, 100% listen to them, not me. This is just what I've learned from researching, and I obviously don't know everything, and I'm not the beacon or the source of knowledge here, but I just think that I've tried to explain it in a bit more of a simplified way. But if you're looking for real complexity and someone who really knows what they're talking about, please refer to F1 Academy sources. I will hopefully link some in the description down below. If you're looking for some real knowledge from someone who definitely 100% knows what they're talking about, I'm just a fan who's done research, and I fully accept that I may not be 100% accurate or correct. I'm just trying to bring what I've learned here in this little presentation. Okay, so this is my presentation. It's just made on PowerPoint, but go me, I've got an opening slide. Look how good it is. uh, Black text on a white background. So the main question of this video, and that I'll try to answer, is where does F1 Academy fit on the feeder series pyramid or feeder series ladder? And as I said, it's just meant for beginners because I'm a beginner too. So basically, I made this very lovely, very lovely pyramid, and I'm just kind of hoping to explain firstly the Formula Feeder Series pyramid from my perspective, and then we can talk about F1 Academy. So obviously there's Formula 1, which is the pinnacle of motorsport, that's what everyone calls it. Formula 2, Formula 3, and then what I'm classing as a Formula 3.5. I don't know if that's specifically what it's called, but that includes Formula Regional, specifically Formula Regional Europe, which has the nickname FRECA. GB3 is probably just slightly below FRECA, but Formula 3.5 is sort of those types of cars in those types of competitions, because it is above Formula 4, but it is not quite Formula 3. So the Formula 4s include all of the different national Formula 4s. So there's the Italian F4, the British F4, and the newly created Middle East F4. I think it used to be called UAE F4. All those competitions are more or less trying to achieve the same thing, although I have the understanding that the level of difficulty might be slightly different in each. For example, one F4 might have higher caliber competitors than another, but I think that more or less they're all regarded by the FIA as F4, and so they're all on that level. So as you can see by the arrow, I think that F1 Academy would fit below that Formula 3.5, but I don't think it's Formula 4. So I've put it as a sort of 3.75. I think that based on what I'm going to present, it sort of fits somewhere there in the pyramid. Whether it is actually more like 3.8, I think that's probably a fair debate to have, but just for sort of completeness sake, I've just put it as 3.75. So the question I know you're asking right now is, but don't they use Formula 4 cars? And that is true, they do. So I think it's worth pointing out that Formula 4 obviously is done in each different country. So there are different engine suppliers, different chassis makers, and so every Formula 4 is not built the same. And so when I say more or less yes, I mean it is technically a Formula 4 car, but not all Formula 4 cars are going to look like the ones used in F1 Academy, if that makes sense. So I've listed some of the specs that the F1 Academy cars use. So this information is available on their website, but basically it's 174 horsepower, 1.4 liter four-cylinder engine, has a top speed of 240 kilometers an hour. I think during the races you'll see them at about 235, 236 within the speed traps, but that is the highest the car can get up to. So the rest of this slide basically has the rest of my argument, which is, okay, so we've established that they do use Formula 4 level cars, but why is it not then part of the Formula 4 spot on the pyramid? And I'm going to explain that, and it's basically because personally, from what I understand of my researching and watching the races as a huge fan, the quality of the competition is slightly higher. Now, this could be in F1 Academy, and it probably is, because the girls in F1 Academy tend to have slightly more experience. Now, that isn't always true. Some of the rookies are coming in completely fresh-faced, but they tend to have slightly more experience and they tend to be slightly older than Formula 4 competitors. And I think that is part of where that quality of the competition does delineate from F4. Generally, I think that means that if the quality of the competition is slightly higher, even though they're using Formula 4 cars, it leads to slightly better racing, but it also leads to quicker lap times. And as you'll see from the next slide, I am using lap times as sort of the basis of my argument, or the basis of my belief on where F1 Academy actually fits into that pyramid that I showed you before. So here we have it. This is my nice page done with all my research. To be honest, it didn't take that long, but but this is my research that I've done. There were a few that had conflicting results, but I've just gone off what I could find as like an official time. So I wanted to show two different tracks that are very different tracks that are raced at quite different times of the year, because I felt like if I just showed one track's lap times, it wouldn't actually be that valid of an argument. But showing two that have relatively similar results, I think more or less demonstrates what I'm talking about. And you might say that two is not actually enough, but I just wanted to say that this is pretty much the only two tracks I could find where most of the Formula series will actually race at. So I couldn't actually find comparison for some tracks because maybe a feeder series doesn't race there or has never raced there. And so it can be really difficult to try and compare the times. But if you've been reading ahead, basically, we'll start with Qatar. Lando Norris has the fastest lap time in a race for Formula One, and that was set only last year. Ollie Behrman has the fastest lap time in F2, and it is about 15 seconds off Formula One, which I think makes quite a bit of sense. In Formula Regional, that is 13 seconds off F2. And then F1 Academy is 4 seconds off Formula Regional. So this is why I was kind of saying that it might be more appropriate to think of it as like a 3.8 or maybe even a 3.9 in the Formula Feeder Series pyramid that I made. But just as I said, it makes sense in my mind to just like slot it neatly between the two kind of sections of the pyramid. As you can see there, the new fastest lap time in a race set only this year in Formula 4 in the Middle East was 1 minute 55.9, whereas the one in F1 Academy was set at 1:54.7. So that is just over a second difference. Now, technically, these two series are racing the exact same cars, or more or less the exact same specs, the exact same models. So I think the fact that they're able to get a second extra off their laps shows that if they're racing the same cars, the quality of the competition must be slightly higher in F1 Academy. And I think this point is actually proven by looking at Zandvoort as well. So in the Netherlands Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton has a lap record from 2021 at 1:11, and Fred Vesti has the Formula 2 record at 1:23. There was a bit of conflict over this lap record, but I think the official one does go to Fred Vesti. As you can see here, the lap difference is 12 seconds, not 15 seconds as in Qatar. And once again, the difference between F2 and Formula Regional is 8 seconds, which is slightly less here as well. The record for F1 Academy set by Hamda Al-Khabaisi was from 2023 because the race in 2024 was absolutely hectic with hectic weather. So that was set in 2023 and it's 1:35.9. And as you can see in British F4, the lap record set in 2024 was 1:36.8. So this is slightly less than a second as it was in Qatar. I think that in looking at the other timings for Zandvoort, this makes a lot of sense because they're all relatively much closer together than in Qatar. But more or less, it's about a second. It's 0.9 seconds. It's almost a second. And I think that this is really actually quite comparable to Qatar, which is just over a second, because as I said, the timings are much closer together in Zandvoort. But I think it does prove my point that if they are racing the same vehicles, which they are, then this means that the quality of the competition in F1 Academy is higher. And I'm not trying to discredit the people in Formula 4 at all. I think they're very good racers, but the truth is they're much younger and most of the time they're just starting out. In fact, some of those competitors, it's their first time in a single-seater open wheel competition, and it can have been their first time graduating up from karts or something similar. So I'm not trying to say that they're bad or anything. I'm just trying to say that even though they race the same cars, when you hear people say that F1 Academy is just Formula 4, I think that that needs to be taken with a grain of salt. And I think that these lap times actually prove that that's not necessarily true. And it's only a second, sure. But across more than one racetrack, they are consistently faster to some extent than Formula 4. So I guess my issue here is that calling it Formula 4, in my mind as a fan, it doesn't actually seem correct just based on these examples that I've managed to pull up off the internet. So I guess in a sense this is me not just showing that they are slightly faster so they're not just Formula 4, but it's also me saying that if you ever encounter individuals that are very quick to dismiss F1 Academy, calling it F4 and not really understanding what it actually is, then I think that these types of examples can be used to show, well, hey, it's not quite Formula 4. It is a little bit higher than that, and it's still a development series, but clearly the quality of the competition is actually very high if they're managing to pull these types of performances out of Formula 4 cars. And I do think it's worth pointing out that a lot of the drivers, and I think even Susie Wolff herself, or at least a lot of people in the Formula One Academy setup, will say this is Formula 4 level competition, Formula 4 level series. And when they're saying that, that's completely fair. They are the people in the actual competition. They actually understand it a lot better than I do. But I think that if they're consistently faster than Formula 4, then it's not necessarily fair to just write it off as Formula 4, because I think that lacks a little bit of nuance just in terms of the fact that the quality of the competition is so high that the girls are managing to pull out times that are faster than the cars are giving the competitors in other competitions. So as I said near the start, I think it's probably true that F1 Academy is more like Formula 3.8 or Formula 3.9 with reference to my pyramid that I've very lovingly put together. But just for, I don't know, just for demonstration purposes, I've put it kind of in the middle there. But what I'm trying to point out with this video is that I think that F1 Academy is not just F4, and I think that this can be a really interesting point of discussion between people who are genuinely trying to understand and get to know F1 Academy and understand the ladder of progression that these girls are going to go through in trying to get to F1. So a lot of the girls actually race Formula 4 at the same time that they do F1 Academy, and they'll do race weekends that they can get to. I think that this is really good experience for them because it means that when they make the step up to 3.5, which is FRECA, GB3, these types of things, and I should point out the winner of Formula 1 Academy gets a GB3 seat, that they will be more prepared because they've actually slowly been getting better by doing these two different, slightly different levels of competition in the pyramid before they move up. And then hopefully FRECA, GB3, those things will prepare them for Formula 3 and then Formula 2 and so on. So this is a short video. Hopefully it's actually been pretty short. Just a quick explainer using quite literally one example to just show where I think F1 Academy is as a series, how it compares to the other Formula feeder series and Formula One itself, and how the quality of the competition is really showing itself when you consider the cars that they are using. But generally, I hope this explainer was helpful or as helpful as it can be. I hope that it can arm you with the knowledge to discuss F1 Academy a little bit better with people who might be misinformed or don't really know that much about F1 Academy. And by knowing a little bit more about Formula One Academy, I hope you can become a little bit more interested in it, become a little bit more of a fan. And to be honest, this video is sort of tiding me over until August 31st when Zandvoort comes in for the next race of the series for this year. But until then, I'm just going to have to continue being really sad that F1 Academy isn't on for another almost 2 months. But we're getting closer. It's sort of the middle of July right now. So soon. It's coming soon. So anyway, that was it for this video. If you have any thoughts, comments, questions, things you want to clarify, because again, I'm a fan, I don't know everything. This was just research. Let's have a discussion down below. Please feel free to comment down below about anything I spoke about. I'll be so happy to have a chat. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.